All right, welcome back to Formative Frontiers. Today's video, we're going to be focusing on communication. In last videos, we briefly touched about communication, especially the video about managing a team. But today, we're going to focus in on why communication matters, how to uphold communication skills, especially in a leadership setting, and why it's so crucial to maintain these skills and help teach others this specific skill. All right. So, first, following up. This is the most important part of communication, especially because how crucial it is after meetings. This doesn't have to be club meetings. Following up doesn't matter. It can happen after a team meeting, it can happen after a budgeting meeting, an accounting meeting, forward planning meeting, even after the original meeting you have to set your vision and mission statement. You should follow up to make sure everyone understands what you're doing. Consistent follow-up shows that you're serious about what you're doing, about the work that you're doing, and most importantly, ensures that things don't fall through the cracks. A common mistake that I see a lot of teams do is that they assign work to each other, but forget to follow up on that. Like, they feel very passionate about working, all right, I can do this task, I volunteer, but they don't get around to doing it. That's why follow-up is crucial when you're assigning anything. And after a meeting or an important discussion, send a recap highlighting key points, assigned tasks, most importantly, and deadlines. Deadlines is something I've actually experimented with, and I found that deadlines does enforce better accountability. When you give an individual a deadline, usually this should be mutually agreed on beforehand. Make sure they understand why there's a deadline, what the deadline is, and reinforce how to get it on time by that deadline. This not only reinforces what was discussed, but also provides a reference point for everyone involved. Let's say they were zoning out during the meeting. All right, now they have a recap to make sure that they're not falling behind. One key thing to note though, I have been mentioning a lot about accountability, but that's not all follow-up is about. It's mostly about support. So checking in with team members periodically to see how they're progressing and if they need any help is the entire point of deadlines. You shouldn't be assigning deadlines to massive tasks. Scratch that, you should. But the point of deadlines is that you should be able to cut down bigger tasks into smaller tasks and have these deadlines as progress checks to make sure that the team is working together and make sure that they're progressing. Now, this proactive approach makes sure everyone's on track and demonstrates the commitments to the team's success. Obviously, follow-up is incredibly key because without it, you lose a lot of important information, and it just murkies the water when it comes to action items moving forward. All right. The second part of communication is feedback. Communication is a very broad term, but when we say feedback, we're specifically talking about constructive feedback, where this leads to individual and team growth. You can start by setting the tone that feedback is for improvement, not criticism. At the same time, the team member should be able to take some level of criticism, mostly positive though. You shouldn't be giving negative criticism. That only leads to more self-destruction within the team. Rather, targeted positive feedback ensures that the team can share their thoughts openly and reform the process that's happening that's currently negative, right? My specific advice for when it comes to giving feedback is focus on being very specific to what they did and be very actionable. Instead of just saying, oh, you made this mistake, say, all right, when we're running this next time, let's try maybe improving this specific thing. And don't make it in a conniving, underhanded, slight type of way. Instead, be direct, but at the same time, be kind. A common practice that's used in professional management is to abbreviate abbreviate the feedback with compliments. So ensure that compliment them for what they're doing good, and then give them the feedback and then compliment them again. This allows them to take the feedback better because they're already in a better mindset. Psychologically, it's a better approach to giving constructive criticism. And this empowers team members to make positive changes. So, on that same end, be open to receiving feedback. You as a leader are not infallible. No matter how much you think you are, feedback is crucial from any aspect, whether it be subordinates, team members, moderators, adults. They all have different experiences from you. So those experiences could be key in opening your eyes to a new perspective that you maybe hadn't considered before. I'm definitely, not infallible, and sometimes I do make the mistake of not hearing, others' opinions and others' criticisms, and sometimes that leads to bad decisions. So from my own personal experience, I do advise you to demonstrate that you will act on that feedback. This not only leads to obviously better decisions, but it also builds trust and encourages a community where everyone does that same. So you create a positive cultural environment where everyone's open to feedback and is ready to implement that feedback. Unfortunately, not everyone is ready to take this criticism. There are some bad apples on every team, and identifying and addressing issues early is crucial for maintaining team health. It might be easier at that moment to think, all right, it's okay, maybe it's just a one-time thing. But if a team member consistently fails to meet expectations or disrupts the group dynamic by leading them off task or just not contributing, it's important to address the situation directly and quickly. These are definitely difficult conversations, but they are necessary for the greater good of the team. In my personal experience, I've definitely had multiple conflicts with team members before, and it's always good to talk it out beforehand and understand so that they understand where you're coming from and try to understand where they're coming from. Try to meet a basis point in the middle, right? Meet them in the middle and figure out a solution that works. Or B, you have to do the difficult thing, and if their negative behavior continues to impact the team, you have to be able to consider serious actions, such as removing that individual. But at the same time, it's key, especially if it's a friend or someone, that you do it in a amicable way, where you're not severing friendships or relations, but you're making a purely professional decision based on their professional actions. Make that clear to them. This is a business move, and it's definitely not I hate you, stop being my friend type move. It's more of a, all right, man, you're not contributing to this workspace. Like, if not, we can still be friends outside, but let's just stop working together on this specific action that I'm really passionate about that you don't share that passion with. Something like that. That's an example that I just came up off the top of my head. But be able to maintain that healthy relationship with them, and continuing on that, the starting point, maintain a healthy team environment. This requires tough decisions, but by addressing issues early and directly, you promote integrity and effectiveness of the team as a whole. Now, this is definitely the hardest part, and unfortunately, this is very case by case. So I can't give you overarching advice other than generics on how to approach any type of conflict. But keep these principles in mind and make sure you always approach from a position of understanding rather than, from a position of disrespect or a position of superiority where you think you're doing the only right thing. Sometimes they're just facing personal issues, but sometimes their behaviors could negatively impact the team as a whole and fail to meet or disrupt the group dynamic. So that's when it's time for you to step in as a leader of the team and give your input and make that tough decision. All right. So communication is the lifeblood of leadership. Whether it be communicating with others to get things planned, communicating after events to make sure that things get done, or communicating within the team to make sure that the environment as a whole works together. You can create a team environment that is not only productive, but supportive and resilient. One thing people make the mistake of assuming is that leadership is just about micromanaging people, but it's not just about micromanaging tasks. It's about managing how you relate to others. And it's about ensuring that everyone is aligned, motivated, and working towards a common goal. It's kind of like math. As long as you have those three things aligned, everything else will go through. Everything else are just obstacles in this common goal, but strong communication practices help you avoid those obstacles and can guide your team to success. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you implement some of these skills in real life. Again, I don't want to hash it again, but communication, without it, you definitely be in a worse position. So learn how to have good communication skills with your teammates, with others, and follow through on those skills. Thanks.